right, we're going to add a foundation wall. What we have so far is we've got piers, we have spread footing, and now we need to add a foundation wall. One of the things we need to do first is talk about the exterior wall. So first thing we're going to do is go to architecture and wall, and I want to show you what we're going to be starting with. And that is the exterior wall we're going to be using is exterior brick and CMU on metal stud. We're going to duplicate that and or edit type and choose duplicate, and I'm going to call this exterior wall. And I'm going to just call it 2. I've already done this for another video and it didn't work, so doing it again. So here we go. Exterior wall, something like that, something you'll recognize. I'm going to edit this. One of the problems is it's got a 3-inch air gap right here, and we need that to be 1 inch of air and 2 inches of insulation. So I'm going to click on row 4, insert, and then on the new row 4, we're going to change that to thermal air. And then instead of air, we're going to choose the 3-dot menu here, and we're going to search for rigid. And you see rigid insulation. Click OK. And now we have a gap. Now we have air and rigid insulation. It should be 1 inch of air, not 4, 1, and then 2 inches of rigid insulation. And this is what a modern wall would look like. The other thing I need to point out is the distance between the outside of the brick and the outside of the metal stud is 1 foot 1 3/8 of an inch. So we need to know that whenever we place our foundation wall. That's the whole reason we did this setup. So we've got an exterior wall to use later, but that's not what we're going to use right now. Click OK. And now we're going to hit escape a couple of times because we're not placing that wall. We're going to structure, and we're going to do a structural wall on the ground floor. Actually, we're not ready to click that yet. When you look at the ground floor, you can see the girders, but you can't see the piers. And we need to, if we place the wall here, we're not going to be able to see the wall. So what we're going to do is go down here to view range for ground floor, and we're going to put an offset right here of -1. We'll probably need to take this back to 0 later, but now you can see the piers. Okay, now structure, wall, and the one we want to use is not the exterior wall we just made, but we're looking for one called foundation, 12-inch, but we don't want a 12-inch wall, we want a 14-inch wall. So we're going to choose edit type, duplicate, and we're going to call this foundation wall, and I'm going to call it 2 because I made a mistake earlier and I don't want to, anyway. Okay, so foundation wall, and just something you recognize, we're going to change the thickness to 0 space 14. This is a 14-inch thick wall, and click OK, and OK. Now we're ready to go. And right now our base constraint is -12 and up to ground floor. So we're going to do our base constraint is going to be the top of the footing to the ground floor, no offset. Okay. And I'm going to use a 2-point rectangle here, and we're going to go outside up here to outside down here. The reason is we need to do that 1 foot 1 3/8 inch measurement offset so that we can make sure our foundation wall and the outside of our exterior wall line up. Okay, so I was having trouble getting the measurement tool to work. One of the things I want to point out, right now this is on detail level coarse. Make sure it's detail level fine, and then everything's going to work great. So we're going to choose measure, and then we're going to zoom in and click on the outer edge of this girder or this column the outside of the wall, and I'm going to put it over here. And then, so to change these numbers to exactly what we want, click on the wall and it will change that number. And we're going to change that to 1 space 3/8. Okay, we get to practice this a lot. So we're on fine. And now we're going to go to measure again. So we're going to go to measure. And this time we're going to measure from the outside of this wall to the tip of this column right there. And I'm going to drop it up here. Then I'm going to click on this wall, press escape a couple of times, click on the wall. And now I can change that to 1 space 3/8. And now I have those two where they're supposed to be. One of the things I want to do is click on that measurement and click the little lock. Click on this measurement and click the lock. What that does is it locks those two measurements into place, so if I grab the wall, I can't move it. All right, so now we're going to go to the other corner and do the same thing. Measurements in Revit are unpleasant. So we're going to choose measure, zoom in down here. We're going to take the outside of this wall to the outside of this girder, or this column. I keep saying girder, place it right there. Then press escape 2 times, click the wall. We're going to change this to 1 space 3/8, and that's locked in. Let's click on that measurement, click on the lock, and the last one we're going to do is this one. So measure outside of the wall to the outside edge of that girder. Make sure that's the correct one. And I'm going to pull it on to the outside here and click. And then if I click this wall, press escape a couple of times, click the wall, then I can click on that. 1 space 3/8. Oh, okay. The reason we did all of that nonsense is because when we're done, when we place our walls, let's check and make sure all of this is good. So this is connected from the top of the footing to the ground floor with no offset. When we place our walls, this wall and the exterior wall will line up nicely. The only thing left to do is we're going to go to structure and wall. And now we're going to do a footing for this wall that's 4 feet wide and 2 feet thick. So right now it says load-bearing wall at 3 feet 12 inches. We're going to click on the edit type and we're going to duplicate it and we're going to call it footing wall. And I want to change the width to 4 and the depth to 2, like that. Make sure you duplicate before you change anything, okay? And then, just like we did on the little house, we're going to orbit this until we can see the bottom, and I'm going to click on each one of these walls, and there we go. So now we have added the foundation wall, and we've added the footing for the foundation wall. We could do a little offset here to make this 7-inch offset line up, but it's too much detail. Right now, this is what your foundation should look like, and that is enough for this video. I hope it makes sense when I'm done editing.